What is going on, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Secondhand Talent. Thank you very much to Luke Chu for the lo-fi. Thank you to Tenacious Toys for the desk candy. And get some of these pins while you can at secondhandtalent.com. But enough of all that. We are here with the highly accomplished producers and the masterminds behind the band that is real, Sarah Hartman and Cason Traeger. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Hello.
Thank you for having us.
We are very grateful to be here.
Hell yeah.
It's been a long time coming, but as with all of the interviews that have been delayed for one reason or another, all good things and all good time. And what better place than here? What better time than now? So I am just incredibly excited to have you both on the show. Now, our first question is, and Sarah, I want to direct this to you because, Cason and I have known each other for a little bit, and we'll get into that. But our first question, when I first told you that I had this podcast and it was called Secondhand Talent, what was the first thing that came to your mind? Be honest.
I mean, I feel like kind of true to what you explained, when we were talking about it, just the people who support the entire arts. All the people who are not necessarily the ones whose names are on the marquee, the people who are the techs, the tour managers, the people, the teachers, like all of the people who are giving their life and their time to the arts, but not necessarily the ones who are, being publicly acclaimed.
I honestly couldn't have said it better myself. And for all of our listeners and readers who aren't watching this on YouTube, I've had this big old smile on my face while Sarah was talking because as many times as I ask that question, and it's now, I still haven't gotten the same answer twice. And it's now variations on this theme of having heard about it and, having taken it in. And I love hearing the perspective of my friends on how they take it to mean knowing what it's about. So thank you so much for that answer. Cason, turning it over to you. Now, it's a bit of an interesting case here. You, if our readers, viewers, and listeners don't know, are part of the Secondhand Talent behind Secondhand Talent and helped me pick out a lot of, in fact, all of the gear that I am currently using, including this microphone, which our logo, Dr. Decibel, was modeled after. And I gotta ask, not your initial reaction, but knowing what you know now at the time of this taping, what do you think of what I've done with it?
Wow, you've from the moment it started, I remember hearing like the first couple episodes and just loving the idea and concept of the content and people you're interviewing for the whole vision. And it's so great to have an outlet, especially within the music industry, that doesn't focus on highlighting secondhand talent altogether. And when I first heard the very first few episodes, immediately I was like, I want to see this get to the next level right away. And I gave you my input, not knowing, because that's in ways it's like, I'm critiquing, but you didn't take it that way. You took it as sincere feedback that you wanted to make improvements on and take my suggestions, like you wanted to make moves right away.
It was absolutely taken and meant, I know, as constructive criticism from the heart, and I took it that way. Absolutely.
Yeah, and that was amazing because I immediately you were contacting me. Okay, I'm ready to do this, and I was like, okay, cool. And I quickly came up with just a suitable list of gear that's like going to make that happen. And you moved very fast on that. And during the same time that you were improving your technical setup for the podcast, you were landing big interviews and things were moving forward with who you're interviewing. the quality of your interviews, it all happened like right away. And I was uh, not only just surprised, but very impressed and happy. It's always great. It's refreshing to see a friend like just pull through on their vision and just like really like swing and hit a home run.
Well, first of all, thank you so much. I personally, I don't feel like the ball is quite out of the park just yet, but I've definitely been working at it, and it really means a lot coming from you. We've known each other for a real long time, which again we'll get into in a bit. But Sarah,
Mhm.
uh, I wanted to ask you. You know, we have this lovely painting over here, folks, that Sarah made for me. You're artistic in so many ways. What came first for you, art or music or both?
They've always both been just such an important part of my life, like since my earliest memories, really. I've just always loved music so much. My mom used to say that I would sing in my crib to with this wind up bear that I had that had a music box inside, and I always loved to draw and just I don't know, I guess I've found that some things express better through music, and then some things, there's just I just have a need to do both, and I've tried to like put one on the shelf for a while, and it just doesn't stay on the shelf for long because, um, yeah. So I'm gonna be forever doing.
Well, listen, people with creative green thumbs don't have things last on the shelf very long, unfortunately. And listen, you know, when you need multiple outlets, you create those outlets. And
Yeah.
Cason, same question over to you. What was your introduction to music and in in your background?
Um, Mine was interesting. I have two older brothers that are 11 and 13 years older than me, and all of my cousins are on my dad's side are that age. And in our house, we had a gym that they would all hang out and work out in. And around the age of 3, I wanted to hang with the boys, and they were always listening to hard rock, like good stuff. I mean, Tool, Black Sabbath, Metallica, and they
Yeah,
had me, headbang to Enter Sandman. So I got obsessed with that song, and I had a little boom box that I used to run around the house, jamming Cherry Pie by Warren. It was like one of those
yeah.
little tiny boom boxes with the microphone. It was being
I
around,
remember.
them that I just couldn't wait for the next time they were all hanging out, just so I could hang out with the dudes and jam loud music because they were listening to it loudly, and I just was like immediately kind of into it. And my oldest brother Jay had a bass guitar that I was never allowed to touch. I would occasionally go open the case and look at it. It was always missing strings, like because he didn't really like play it seriously. Like, he loved music, but at the time he wasn't in a band at that time. But one day he caught me playing with it, and instead of making me put it away, he taught me how to play Longview by Green Day.
All
And
right.
my hands were really small at the time, but I was able to get it down. And he sat with me for a long time, like helping me with the technique, like just like showing me how to do it. And from that moment on, I was allowed to touch the bass. So go figure, I would go. They had a boombox in there with a CD player boombox, and I would put on random CDs and pretend to play, and jump up and down the bed with a guitar, pretend. And I remember that feeling of just knowing that I wanted to do music for the rest of my. It was like what I wanted to do, and eventually I started getting sick of pretending to play the songs and started learning the albums by ear. Several of them. Just all by airing out the songs, identifying the root note, learning the patterns of how the bass sits behind guitar parts, and it helped develop my theory and like kind of at this early age. And I almost regret not doing orchestra when I was in 5th grade because I did band and I played trumpet, so I could read treble clef. But
And
with bass, I could only learn stuff by earing it out. Not until like I was in high school where I started to learn how to read chord changes for jazz band and etc. But yeah, that's what got me like started into music. That was
I
my my
oh my God.
my family, and like just it being around it at a young age made me obsessed.
and Sarah, did you come from a musical family as well, or were you kind of like the wild artist in the family that kind of sprung from nowhere?
I did come from a musical family. My I'm extremely lucky to have parents that are also musicians. My mom, she was a classical vocalist turned psychologist, and
All right, there, Keith
and a
Harker, take notes.
pianist, and my dad, he would write tons of folk songs on guitar, and
Oh wow,
um, he was the one who really kind of got me into songwriting. And just kind of, I don't know, he kind of like when I was in high school, when I was, a kid, I would, look at this, listen to his songs, and I would write things too, and he would kind of like ask questions about it, and kind of like push me into that like show not tell direction. And was definitely like a big mentor for me in my writing. So I feel very lucky to have had a family that nurtured my interests in music, and in visual art. It's funny because I've always felt like visual art is the expression of music for me, like, but music is the expression of like visual art in a sort of abstract mental place. You know what I mean? Like it's visual art that doesn't exist outside of the body and the mind, at a point, but it becomes its sonic
it makes me think
manifestation.
of a print by the artist who does all of my shirts, the wonderful, incomparable Mark Spoosta, the Wolf Symphony print that he did, where it's just Wolf orchestrating to air, but the air is filled with these sonic vibrations, and you know that it's just color and maybe it's clouds, but you feel that it's music that's out there
Yeah.
in the air, that are the colors that you're seeing. You're seeing the notes of the Grateful Dead expressed in a color palette.
Yeah, totally. I relate to that.
And you both really finding this drive in high school brings me to my next question, which is, and Sarah, just to clarify, around, I would say late high school, I guess, were you also kind of intent like on art and or music being your path forward?
You know what? Like deep down, I 100% was. Like I always knew from when I was a kid, like I wanted to be performing. I wanted to be um singing, playing music and on a stage, and creating music too, and just figuring out the path to get there, I guess. Everybody has their own, journey, but I yeah, I mean, I did classical singing when I was growing up, and recitals and performing, and I did a lot of theater, and that I almost feel like that was the theater, the directing especially was like the most preparatory thing that I think I could have done for music production, because it's
I I was gonna say, like, I'm so glad you said that because I feel like that's exactly the type of mental addition to all the artistic stuff that unlocks producer mode. You know what I
yeah.
mean? like it really, that directorial overhead view of the maze, as Fish put it. But Cason, your path was a little bit more straightforward out of high school, correct? You just went right into music.
Oh, yeah, I mean, joining the coop in high school and us continuing after. Like things started to progress. It was I was the youngest in the group, and we had a couple in college at U of I at the time, and I was working full time and going to community college part time during that, and the in like I can't remember what year it was, maybe 2008 or nine. I got laid off and was so grateful because I hated that job. And at the same year, the Coop got on added to Summer Camp Music Festival, and it was more clear cut. I was thinking about going to Berkeley and Boston, but the guys were about to graduate, and I was like, no, if I'm going to learn anything for 50 grand a year, like I feel like it's kind of more of a networking thing out there. So I decided
Hmm.
not to go and kind of ride things out with the band, and they kept moving forward fast, and it was just like, yeah, it was clear cut. Like this is what I'm doing.
As I alluded to, we met around late 2009, 2010-ish, and I was blown away. I think that was my first time seeing live electronica, especially played by accomplished musicians. Shout out to season 3 guests, former members of the Coop, and dear friends Joe Ray, Jake Barinholtz, and Danny Biggins. Love you guys. It was, I had always been a live music lover, and it was live music played in a way that I didn't think was really possible. I had never seen it done. I don't know if you knew that, but like I had seen, Humphreys, and I heard Biscuits do their thing, and saw a little bit of Fish at that point, but I had never heard anything like Fiber Octopus or Connected or any of those tracks. I mean, and that shit blew my mind. And what was the craziest part about it to me is that not only were the four of you quite acclaimed musicians in your own rights, it was so technical. What impressed me so greatly was the technical aspect of it. And I really I still really can't comprehend the level of detail there. And we're talking about 15 years ago. And y'all have come leaps and bounds, all four of you respectively, but specifically you two since then. After the coup amicably dissolved, and all four went your separate ways. Talk a little bit about the direction you went.
Um, well, I was trying to start a teaching business. Sarah and I met kind of indirectly through another source, and we started making music together. But we felt like such an alignment of our vision and sound, what we were both trying to aim and make during that point in our lives. And I felt like it was such a creative vibe together that was really bringing out the best in our artistry at the time. And we kept pushing forward. I mean, like life changed for me big time. I started working at Guitar Center just a couple days a week and doing a bunch of music hustles and stuff like that.
So, Sarah, what was your musical journey like post college?
So I had a group of a band that I was playing with, friends that I had met in school, and we had written a bunch of songs together. We had moved to the city and rented a house, like a music house where we could, jam and practice and stuff. But we were all just, everybody was super busy. So I was kind of trying to learn music production and just start to create my own stuff. And I was looking for people to collaborate with. And randomly one day I went on Craigslist and saw that there was somebody who posted who was looking for people to make live electronic music, which is exactly like what I was trying to make. And they lived a block away from me. So I figured, okay, I have to call them because this is the
Duh.
universe. This is, you know,
Back when
I have to follow
Craigslist
the
was great.
breadcrumbs.
Back
Yeah.
when Craigslist was great.
And this is Musicians Classifieds. Yeah. So I went over to his house and Cason, who lived he lived like an hour away from this guy and just kind of happened to be rolling through the city at the time that I was going to meet him. We just sort of happened to meet that way and showed each other music and stuff that we were working on and just really vibed sonically. And then we met up the next week and just kind of started making stuff, and it felt so effortless. And both of us were just so excited for just for the vision, for the vision, because I think we both saw where this could go, like with both of our, I don't know, like we had different backgrounds, different sounds, sort of that really sort of melded together. So yeah, so that's kind of how we got started.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how we got started. And I learned so much about production from working with Cason too, because he was, way further along in his production journey than I was at the time
Well,
when we started
that's
working together.
That's
Um,
actually something I was just going to ask you about, and I'm glad you brought that up. Folks, in case you didn't notice, I'm wearing a brand new piece of jewelry here. It's a console capacitor from Fame Studios, the famous Muscle Shoals sound, and I'm wearing it in honor of the production skills of our esteemed guests over here. And what I really want to know is, where were each of you at in your, and please, this can be a dialogue. Don't wait for me to interject. I want to hear like where you guys were at from a production skills perspective when you first started collaborating, and how you've used each other's skill sets to continue to grow, not just together as real, but as well as to hone your skills as producers in your own rights.
yeah, that's a good question. Um,
Feel free to take a beat. I mean, it's definitely a long question, and it's a lot. There's a lot of history. Just for context, Sarah is the producer and vocalist, and does and I have to say, you mentioned directing, and having that understanding of the visual aspect of performance. Y'all don't need a light show. The two of you are so dynamic on stage, just in the way that you move and the way that you flow with the music that's coming from you. It really is a testament to understanding not just what the crowd wants, but also that it's okay to say, fuck what the crowd wants. Let me just be one with the music, and I know it'll come out right.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that I feel like finding that place where you're just locked in to the sound, and like this goes back to the whole like directing and theater thing, um, where I feel like there's like this timing, it's all about timing. It's all about dynamics and timing that goes into directing and theater and music. It's kind of all the same thing. Like you're working with rhythm and time because that's what language is anyway. That's what music is. I guess just really tapping into that and trying to be as connected to that flow as possible has just had that has been my objective as an artist, is to just connect with that.
I was gonna say when when we first met, we were at like different stages of musical production. At that time I was not even close to where I wanted to be yet. And I was I was happy with where I was at, but not satisfied, I suppose. Like, you know,
It's
every
a good
artist
way
is
to put
trying
it. That's a good
every
way to
artist
put
is
it.
trying
Yeah.
to grow. And like, um you know, I had my 10 years of experience with the coop, but we were only doing electronic stuff for like the last 4 to 5 of those years. Well, actually maybe a little bit longer than that. But in a nutshell, having that like breakdown of like, well, you produce a song and then you take a bunch of elements out that the live band is going to cover. That was always a difficult thing that I had so much help with the coop, especially like working a lot with Jake during the time. He helped me immensely like develop my mixing skills. I felt like I was able to grow together with him during those like early mid parts of the electronic, uh, you know, part of the coop and whatnot. And then, you know, as me and Sarah started working together, she was bringing like both of us really had these different, you know, attributes that were bringing out the best in each other at that time, where we were able to grow together. And that's
But we were both really into like looping. We are both into kind of
yeah,
like the
yeah,
repetition of like building soundscapes kind of from
Yeah, you
piece
are.
from repetitive pieces, you know, but in a way that that feels dynamically interesting, you know, like in a way where you don't notice the repetition, where it feels like just it feels like the fabric of the song, you know.
To me, you less loop and more sonically fabricate, if that makes sense. Like,
especially now,
I
Yeah.
mean, let's
especially
compare
now.
music to cloth, you know, like, why
I
not?
that's what I'm saying about
But
weaving too. Yeah.
which you do, just, you know, not to knock that, but
Yeah.
like, absolutely, you know, like the when folks, if you get a chance to go see Real, please go see Real. Their live show is just stunning. And the
Thanks.
things that you do with your voice, it's not just about looping. You add harmonics, you add harmonies, you add so many different elements to the different loops that you use. And you do things in such a way where not only is it unique every time, it, you know, I've never seen you guys perform and felt like I didn't know every song you played, even though it's my first time probably hearing half of them. Like, and that, you know, is taking that sonic fabric and just kind of wrapping it around people. And that's an incredible gift that you give to the people who
Thanks.
get to
Thank
hear your
you.
music. So
Sweet
that's
way
what
to
I
put it.
Yeah.
Thank
that's
you.
what I appreciates about you. So tell us, you know, when did Real, folks? For those of our readers, and no, our readers will see this, but for our listeners and viewers, actually, Real is R34L. Check the description and the link and the title of the episode for comments. When did Real really? When did Real really start to? I, I cornered myself in the same way I can't get the ring light out of my camera. I just cornered myself right into that one. When did Real really start to become something that was okay? Yep, this is really moving forward.
Right away.
Yeah, I mean, honestly,
I
from
mean,
like day
Let's
one,
fucking
we
go.
were just like, yes, this is it. Let's, yeah. I mean, that was kind
So
of,
okay,
it's
let me rephrase the question. Oh, sorry, Kason, you were going to say something.
yeah. I mean, it's just a timing thing in life too. Like I was at a stage in life that was like I just needed a drastic change. I needed a change from where I lived. I needed a change from my job. I wanted to change the focus of my art at the time, like just based on just based on like years of being kind of locked into the same thing, living at home, working a job I hated, and all sorts of life stuff. And it was just like musically, that was like immediately we started making these songs and we're trying to formulate like some kind of album. But I'd say the one thing that would like kind of held us back was we could not stop creating new things at the
Mm.
time. Like that was the one uh but we also felt obligated to do that to figure out what kind of material is going to work on some kind of record together, and like we were being patient.
I'm glad that we were
Yeah,
patient
me
though,
too.
because especially as like both of us, I mean, in the very beginning, I was not good at mixing. You were pretty good at mixing, but both of us, yeah, both of us have come so far like over the years from on the mixing and production side that like I'm glad that we didn't just wrap up the early songs that we create and release them. Like I'm glad that we kind of like let them sit and simmer a little bit and then come back to them when we have
Some
when
of them.
with like improved skills as we're kind of learning more and more and more, and then fixing the mixes on some of some of those older songs.
You know,
So
an interesting dichotomy that I've found in creating versus producing. I often find myself hearing interesting advice in relation to one versus the other. When someone comes to me with a question of, which three of these 10 songs should I produce? My response is usually, which one is your favorite? Finish that one, and then move on to your second favorite, and then your third favorite, and then release the EP when it's ready. Let it cook. Don't half-ass two things, whole ass one thing. Let
mhm.
it marinate. But also, previous guest of the show, Ben Boone, my brother and half of Boone and Keel, mentioned something in our interview in our only episode of season 4.5. You got to write 10 shitty songs to get one good one.
Yeah.
And part of the process is just churning and churning and churning and burning and putting out different versions and different drafts. And as you were just saying, which I kind of want to continue on from, you were a bit of a novice mixer at the start. And I know, Cason, you were developing a lot, towards the later years of the coop. But shortly after Reel began, technology started to really ramp up, as did some of the software. How did you guys meet that learning curve?
with
I've,
with the soft with just learning all the tech stuff.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, for me personally, for example, it was a hoot and a half getting all the hardware set up, getting the software set up, and now this season we're on a new streaming platform.
Yeah.
So it's been a whole lot of dialing things in that I'd never really ever done before. I've done them peripherally or tangentially, or I've observed it, but now I'm up and ready to record an episode within a half hour, and it's done within 90 minutes. And that's only something that comes with time. When
Yeah.
you get new software batch releases or updates, like, does it take very long for you at all
oh
to
yeah.
learn all the new kinks? So okay, so what's that
Yeah.
shit
Well,
like?
I want to
I think
answer.
we have different answers for this question.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
all right,
well,
go
I
ahead,
would
Okay,
Cason.
say,
I don't know.
well, no, when okay, so during the beginning of our band partnership, we I started working at Guitar Center, and that allowed us to start like kind of mentally like conceptualizing what kind of gear we wanted for our studio, and a lot of this stuff we were focusing on, like this is all new to us, like upgrading our audio interfaces, upgrading the literally everything, studio
Can
monitors.
our can our viewers get
And
a quick peek of what's behind you? Speaking of your studio.
yeah, no, that's Sarah's. Maybe.
Crazy,
My
the crazy
baby.
laboratory over there. We'll get there eventually. But
It's
anyway, keep
man.
going. Sorry to interrupt you.
So no, it's okay. And during that time, it was so helpful for me to be working with Sarah because like the things that we were trying to learn, we were learning like together. And that's where it was just like,
And like showing each other things,
yeah,
being like,
like,
Cason, like check out
yeah.
this feature on this thing, or like check out this cool like weird technique, this weird signal chain that we just made, you know?
I feel like I learned a lot about EQing with Sarah because we were both obsessed with the same EQ plugin,
Yeah.
Pro Q3. It's a digital one, but we use some of the analog emulating ones for different purposes. But we're obsessed with like, the surgical EQ and like how to like really, really shape the sounds in a mixing and audio engineering sense. And I felt like that's once we were able to upgrade our toolkit, upgrade our studio, the tools we're using, we were simultaneously progressing and learning them at the same time together.
Sarah, I'm curious to
Yeah.
hear what your answer was going to be.
I think it's interesting how like I think if you were to ask me like 10 years ago this question, I would say something completely different. Like I would put more emphasis, I think, on the tools. But I think at this point, I really just feel like looking retrospectively, I'm like, it's just time, like time and just time spent just using the tools and training your ears to hear sound waves in locking together in phase, like to feel what it feels like when the rhythm of a compressor is sitting just right, like all of these things, and like to like the fine sort of like the when you're EQing a sound, when you get a curve that just sits just right with another sound, it's like that. You don't need necessarily crazy fancy tools for it. It's just time. It's just the time spent using them. So, um, yeah.
Well, I mean, it kind of gets actually to another point that I give often to people who send me songs to review for submission for recording. If I think it's a person I remember asked me, "What genre do you like?" I was like, "What kind of question is that?" And he was like, "I have like some country songs, I have some rock songs, I have like," and I was like, "Just send me a good one." Just I don't like to me there's two genres. Like my students, I have my music playing in my class all the time, and y'all come up, and the students they have fun when your music comes on.
Right on.
Yeah, oh yeah, they're annoyed by like 80% of what I listen to. They enjoy the electronic music and the hip hop. That's about it, and occasionally Weird Al, depending on which class. Uh, but no, I definitely try to expose the kids to as much music and culture as possible, because it's incredibly important to pass that down to the next generation. And both of you do that. You guys have hosted workshops in the past, correct, to help bring these skills down to the next generation.
Yeah, luckily,
Mhm.
with my position at work and one of my coworkers and a good friend, Todd Fagel, he was experienced with throwing events with brands, and he kind of, he knew what me and Sarah were doing at the time, which we were, you know, trying to do an Ableton teaching business during that time, and we partnered with Akai through the first ever NPC beat battle. We partnered with Novation, Focusrite, and Shure,
We
did
we
a
did
workshop.
demos and stuff with
Yeah,
like their products, but it was kind of fun. Just learning the product, seeing what it can do, and then sort of putting it together, like figuring out some kind of creative workflow on it and sharing it with a group.
yeah. We
So
haven't we haven't done it in a while, mostly because it shut down during the pandemic. Our line of work itself just kind of evolved and changed from private tutoring, and
Now, speaking of which, however, coming to the pandemic era, now, yes, live music suffered just about as hard as and as quickly as restaurants and schools and daycares. Those live concerts didn't happen, for a while, and you know, we all individually experienced an incredible amount of stress and duress during that period of time, especially those first few months. Not having the creative outlet to be able to perform, did you find that had some sort of shaping ability to where your skills are today? Was there any, like, I guess because you weren't able to gig live, like, did you kind of knuckle down and like really get into the nitty-gritty of like, because you mentioned at this point, you have a canon of songs that you've written, most of which haven't been released. Did you use that time to get into like, kind of your back catalog and really like re-examine some things, and tell us what that process was like, if so? I'm just guessing. I don't
Yeah.
know. Uh,
A,
well,
a
for
lot of
us,
a lot of the songs on the record, or at least like a good few of them, were kind of they were, I don't know, like they were written around that time. The record that we just put out, uh, at least a good half of them.
yeah, a major just
Yeah, that
argue
was an intense year. I actually had like a really bad injury that year that um was kind of interfering with my whole music flow because it was like a back injury and like sort of neck and back. So like that's like where I feel music, okay, is like that area. And so it was an intense period of time because everything was shut down and I'm like, is this ever gonna heal? What's going on? And so it was kind of terrifying for
yeah.
me. Um,
I felt kind of spoiled, like because I feel like the average person was completely losing their shit, like because they couldn't get out of the house, and I was like kind of okay just working on shit and being a studio hermit all day. Like it didn't, completely outside of what Sarah was talking about with her injuries, just like the natural is like opposed to it feeling like this huge weight on me or like something that was inhibiting me. It was like, this ain't so bad. I get to like just, I don't have to go to to work right now at my corporate job. I can just work on my art, and like that part of it I didn't mind. And we found ways to like be creative. Like we did a full Kraftwerk tribute set stream, and uh shout out Liam Biner for running visuals for that,
Yeah.
and
Go Liam.
he
yeah.
ran them remotely in LA, and I had to use like I'd use like an iRig for my phone to give him the audio direct because there's such a
God,
delay.
that's amazing.
Um,
It kind of felt like Groundhog Day when
it did.
we were working on the
Yes.
remix album too, and like I remember I was working on this mix for a long
Days
time
on
and
end.
days on end, like just adding, getting just things like how I wanted them, and I felt like I was the same day over and over and over again.
And as live music came back, Sarah, fortunately, you had recovery from your ailment, and you two were able to start performing again. What did that first gig back feel like?
Trying to remember which one it was. Was it?
Ha! I love that. That's the
Yeah,
best answer ever.
I think the first gig we was it
You
at the
remember?
Point afterwards.
I can't.
I think it was.
I mean, okay, I know the answer regardless.
Yeah.
It feels good because we, even just for the last few years, and the pandemic also had something to do with this, we haven't been playing as much as we'd really like to be. However, we're okay with that, with what we're trying to focus on, and what we're trying to work on and accomplish. Like, we're trying to complete and push forth a lot of newer material, focus on what that show is going to be like.
Yeah.
Our last show that we just did with Colin O'Brien from on the drum set, Colin is such an incredible drummer and human being, and that working, with someone like that who, we only had one rehearsal together, but I prepped a very thorough way to coach him through the material so that he was able to kind of practice and rehearse on his own. That show itself that just happened really felt so good on stage, because he brought us to like the level that I felt like I wanted the show to feel like live, and to what I want it to sound like. So now it's just more or less like, all right, how can we wrap up all this material and then just start, booking ourselves more. Really,
Yeah.
it's been hard for us to like make that our primary focus for a while, just because we've had so much we want to accomplish.
And there's
first.
there's like so many hats to wear as an independent artist, like especially when you want to create,
Absolutely.
an entire world with your project, like videos and artwork and obviously music itself, the production, the mixing, the mastering, all of that. Like for this record, we've been doing just us.
Yeah, just us.
And
It's let's get
yeah,
just to highlight what she was saying. Video stuff, like Sarah has exponentially tackled such a like grueling amount of responsibility and content creating behind doing the music videos, and we've had a lot of help from Michael Silberman, Great Eye Films, doing some of the shooting. However, when it comes to spearheading those projects, conceptually, you know, I'll definitely be involved with Sarah, like with make some of the like back and forth, like bouncing ideas off each other. But she will take all of that after we've made like a conversation, and then she will like push forward the concept and get it to the level and handle like a boatload of the content creating responsibility when it comes to the music videos. Like, she did all the editing, um a ton of the filming and shooting, like with a green screen at home, with like, you know
Hell
um
yeah.
and like, and then compiling that with work from other people who've, like Silberman, that have done some shots and whatnot.
Friend of the program as well.
Yeah.
oh yeah. Yeah, the video stuff it's definitely a new thing, like for us. Just editing videos, making our own videos. But it's really
Yeah.
cool because it feels so much. My only reference is editing audio, so that's kind of the approach that I'm taking with it, and it feels like you're adding another instrument. It feels like like a visual instrument, and it's definitely gratifying in the same way that producing
You
is.
know, my only form of reference as an artist up until starting this podcast has been as a stand-up comedian. And the first episode of this show is the first video and audio I had ever edited, and it's trash. And like Cason said at the beginning of the interview, I took his advice, but like in the strongest of terms, I resemble that remark. I mean, trust me, man. This is, oh wow, I can't even believe it. I think this might be something around the 90th interview that
That's
we've
crazy.
recorded for Secondhand Talent so far. At the time, I'm not somewhere right around there, and I've, from first contact to booking to this process right here to editing to post to production and distribution, I've done it all end to end now 90 times, and I did not nearly have the Swiss Army knife that is real, and everything that you had done. But I came at this with a hacksaw and was just like, let me get the art out there and it'll speak for itself. And then ultimately, with the help of folks like Cason, and I need to give a shout out here to Justin Hampton as well, and Benny from Tenacious Toys, who have shown nothing but love and support. Part of me, and part of the reason Secondhand Talent has grown to where it is, you know, I I want I wanted a platform for my friends' stories. That's how this started, because there's such great stories, and if I can't take advice from the people that I wanna hear from, what am I even doing? And I think one of the coolest things about the music that you have created, are creating, and will create is that you do it in such a symbiotic fashion that Sarah, even as you said, it's kind of two disparate sounds, they meld together so well. And you've both continuing on a metaphor, weave this cloth of your music. And it's just been really incredible as both a friend and a fan watching, and hearing it grow.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Same.
Yeah.
Likewise. Mutual there.
So coming out of the COVID period, and it's been a while since then, obviously, but as you gear up into your new album, how has your process as a band and of creating your musical art evolved?
Yeah. I love this question because thinking back today, I feel like for me, it's gotten way more modular in my workflow and stuff. I think way back when, before I got into modular workflows, um, I found myself kind of trying to do like redundant things across all the sounds in my song, which just manually taking forever. And then I'm realizing like, hey, I could actually create these networks of modulations within this song with this sound is affecting this sound over here, and like these sort of webs. Okay, so that's like as I was getting into modular synthesis and kind of learning more and more about those workflows and how to build sounds that are interconnected like that. So I think that for me, it's gotten just kind of streamlining my process to make use of these things like LFOs and envelope followers and like things where I can create these overarching shapes within the song, um, rather than just kind of putting together a bunch of random stuff. So,
I just love hearing it described like that, putting overarching shapes over each other in a song. It's such a great, it's like a very Zappa-esque way to describe, putting a piece together. I just love that.
it's like I don't know, that I feel like there's no, for us, but I think for both of us, the separation between the mixing and the composing, there is none. It's just it's sort of we both build songs kind of like the mix from the top down, where we're fitting everything into the mix where we want it to be when we put it there, rather than um like make composing the song, writing the song, recording the song, like it's all a holistic thing, which is kind of cool.
As Bill O'Reilly famously said, "Fuck it, we'll do it live."
Yeah, I don't know. It's just fun that way because it becomes a process of discovery. It becomes a process of just where you see the final vision at the start, kind of, and you're bridging that gap rather than like kind of getting lost in it and then sort of trying to like balance everything out after you already have all these moving parts. So
I think
Yeah.
part of understanding ahead of time that you're going to be incorporating live energy into the process kind of takes a little bit of the pressure off when it comes to, conducting the process itself, because you already know that that's going to be a formative component.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely like kind of shaped the direction I think both of us have wanted to go in with the music, just based on what do we want to bring to the stage, kind of, you know?
Yeah,
And you
that's
you compose a lot more with like live
yeah. I
jamming. That's
improv. It's like I would say over the years, developing on my rig that I used to bring out with the coupe, which is like a hybrid. Like I'm running sequencing with, production that's being done through Ableton, that can be improvised lengths and lengths that are cut up for us to improvise with as a band. I've been evolving that setup to a solo template where I can live loop my instruments that are all plugged into my studio, whether it's my hardware drum sampler, well, hardware, software, machine, whether it's that, my bass guitar, my Moog synth, whatever. I get everything talking to where I could loop and sequence the ideas and create. And I have that arranged for a live improv set, which I still love doing that stuff. You know, our friend Spacely, who does Machine Elvis, he's someone I've been jamming with lately, and with Sarah as well. She's like, we'll just kind of hang out and do like an improv and just record it for that purpose. But that whole template itself, is what I have orchestrated for creating new material, so I can just show up to my station, start live looping whatever, and then have it kind of building a foundation of an idea.
Again, part of turning 15 words into 15 minutes is improv, is being able to vamp on things, and I learned how to write my set lists from the coop. I write my set list with segues and with little I, for the encore, I have the little dash separation and an E with two dot, I write my set list kind of like how a jam band would. But it's the improv and being able to put that kind of weight on your shoulders that really powers you through. But for you, I imagine it must be a really freeing aspect, knowing that even when you're performing live, you're live. And even when you're in the studio, you're live. Like you're always adding something new, adding something extra.
Sure.
yeah. That's like the magic of music, is just kind of completely going into the dark of the presence and just sort of seeing what's there, and because every decision you make is going to lead you to the next move, and it's fun to just kind of see what happens and just kind of let yourself play.
Keep it real.
Yeah.
Oh, you just come out with a brand new record. Tell us a little bit about it.
It's called Falling in Place. It is 13 tracks. It's kind of it's introspective, but it is dance music at its core. So it's sort of we're sort of straddling that line between like the headphones and the club and like introspective, like extra, like sort of that, I don't know, introspective electronic music, I guess, is how I feel about it. Each song is sort of like a headspace, um, a different headspace that's kind of about the whole sonic fabric, I guess. But yeah,
Cerebral. I love it. It's just like I love the adjectives you use there to provide that description. Like it just gives so much color to the anticipation. It's great.
yeah, I feel like the best. I don't know. I guess it's funny. Okay. it's structured music, but it's also not. Like I almost want it to be listened to more like instrumental music than pop music and stuff because the vocals are really there as sort of like an instrument to be sort of just a reflection of the other sounds in the tracks. You know what I mean? Like they're not meant to be like this is the this is the center focus for the song. You know what I mean? Like a lot of pop music and stuff where it's like the beat is supporting the
Gotcha.
vocal. You know, I feel like both of us really want like a holistic kind of
Sure.
Yeah,
sound.
that if I could sum it up and correct me if I'm wrong, that the beat and the vocal are in true harmony.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
It was really kind of carefully curated from our material that we were really just trying to find a home for and a blanket for together. We were fortunate to have percussionist, Chicago-based percussionist Sekou Kande record djembe and some percussion on the first and last song. He's an absolute genius of a musician. He's studied with Fela Kuti, played with Afro Zep, which is a band I've also sat in with for a show, and that was also phenomenal. But all in all, it was cool to have some material that was a little bit older mixed with some stuff that was very fresh and new. And it weaves through a lot of different genres, feels, all in kind of a dynamic way that we found suitable with the way that it flowed.
Well, I think bringing the old into the new is quintessentially what real is all about and transforming it into something completely different and unexpected. Sarah, Cason, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show. It was just an absolute treat to have you both on.
Thank you so
thank
much for having us,
you.
and stay tuned for the deluxe release of the record that's happening later this year, probably around September or October-ish is what we're thinking.
Well, folks, at the time of this taping, we're not sure, but at the time of this airing, we might be. Check it out, find out. Regardless, you will find all of Real's links in the comments. Keep it real. Check them out. Like and subscribe. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Cason. This is Steiner with another episode of Secondhand Talent, and we will see you next Wednesday. And that's a podcast. There we go.
Thank
There we go.
you.
Perfect.
Yeah,
That was good.
yeah, nailed it.
All right.
Stuck the landing. There we go.